Russia and Ukraine is beginning to affect its wheat supplies. The Premier reiterated regional states are currently maximizing efforts per Ethiopia's aspirations to replace wheat imports. We have more on that.
Ethiopia seems lucky enough to withstand projected adverse effects of food insecurity in coming months, as it is having promising interventions in its wheat import substitutions. In his reflection on the wheat production schemes regional states are performing, the Premier Abiy Ahmed indicated regional states are currently maximizing efforts per Ethiopia's aspirations to replace wheat imports. The Prime Minister and the World Bank officials have visited cluster wheat productivity in Eastward zone of the Adama district of the Oromia region.
So to see a plant like this, which is able to produce wheat, is something that we hope really is something we look at, and we hope Ethiopia will be able to produce enough to be able to feed itself and also export over time. So we are happy to be able to see this, and we are appreciative of the Prime Minister to be able to show us what Ethiopia is actually doing in this regard.
The Executive Director for Africa Group World Bank appreciated the scheme as it is being achieved in the country, while the world is much worried at a time when the war between Russia and Ukraine is beginning to affect its wheat supplies.
As you are aware, wheat is also one of the crops that is under pressure. There is a war between Russia and Ukraine, and they are the ones who produce probably 23% of the world grain. So to see a plant like this, which is able to produce wheat, is something that we hope really is something we look at, and we hope Ethiopia will be able to produce enough to be able to feed itself and also export over time.
The regional states of the country are maximizing efforts accordingly. World Bank Country Director for Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan and Eritrea, Osmani Dayon, for his part indicated they are convinced by Ethiopia's stride in wise use of the funds from the World Bank.
Program like this, which to somehow need support, is also something which the World Bank is looking at contributing for the development of Ethiopia. And it is not only about food production, it is also about generating jobs for millions of Ethiopians across the country.
Premier Abiy reiterated Ethiopia remains to be a reliable partner with the international financial institutions by proving itself to the whole world that supports and grants are utilized appropriately for development.
The produce is satisfactory as it goes with our plan of prosperity. This proves that Ethiopia's prosperity is inevitable. We are on track, but we need to be much focused on our plans, otherwise aid and support cannot ensure the country's sovereignty. We have to exert more efforts and ensure our loyalty.
The Finance Minister Ahmed Shide and Chief Administrator of the Oromia Regional Estates, Shmallis Abdisa, have also attended the visiting session.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has sent a message to the President of China, Xi Jinping, expressing heartfelt condolences on the fatal crash of China Eastern Airlines flight MU-5765. The Prime Minister said his thoughts and prayers are with the families of all those impacted by the unfortunate event. He further wished the Chinese President's well-being and the people peace, progress and prosperity. The crash is likely China's most deadly aviation incident in 3 decades and has prompted a national outpour of grief. On Wednesday, the devastating families of the 123 passengers and 9 crew on board the flight also arrived at the crash site, gathering in the small village closest to the scene. The Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen, speaking on the humanitarian support to the Tigray region, reiterated the government's commitment to allow unimpeded access to humanitarian operators. Discussing bilateral ties between Ethiopia and the United States, he said HR 6600 and I-3199 couldn't measure the long-standing and historical relations of the two nations. DEMAC also expressed the encouraging peace initiatives that the government of Ethiopia has taken to ensure lasting peace and stability in the country. Similarly, he mentioned that the release of renowned political figures from detention, the lifting of the state of emergency before its due time, and the positive steps reached so far in establishing a national dialogue commission and electing its commissioners. Special Envoy David Sarsfield on his part said the United States appreciated and acknowledged the positive steps taken by the Ethiopian government to pacify and stabilize the country. It was noted that the Special Envoy will also meet African Union and United Nations officials and representatives of humanitarian organizations.
Voice. It's very simple. The resolution will not help ordinary Ethiopians of any ethnicity like its title promises, but it states U.S. control over a sovereign country. How? If this resolution is passed, it will welcome intervention, creating an open path for the West to manipulate internal affairs and pave a way for neo-colonialistic interests, allow sanctions on peaceful diasporan individuals for providing financial assistance to rebuild the destruction caused by the war, block Ethiopia from attaining loans necessary for various development opportunities which will and no doubt have a direct impact on the poverty-stricken people of Ethiopia. A firm resistance of H.R. 6600 is thereby in the interest of all Ethiopians regardless of any ethnic affiliation and should be a wake-up call for Africans at large.
H.R. 600 draft bill sparks fresh oppositions and condemnation by the Ethiopians against the United States government. Ethiopian diaspora community living across the United States called for American citizens to say to House Bill H.R. 6600. It also said that the bill, Ethiopia Stabilization, Peace and Democracy Act, will not resolve any domestic issues in Ethiopia nor bring common ground to live by for the public at large. Tigist Arnesa has compiled the following account. Let's take a look.
It now seems high time for all Ethiopians to speak out opposing such maltreatments by the U.S. They have a reason to do so. H.R. 6600 appear to harm their socio-economic and political progresses. The draft bill also undermines the current peace efforts by the Ethiopians and Ethiopian government, threatening to impose sanctions on Ethiopia.
This bill comes in at a time that's just very curious. Even if you look at the title of the bill, to support stabilization, peace, and democracy efforts in Ethiopia. It is anything but that. The actual purpose of this bill has nothing to do with this title. That's just a sugarcoat. This is a sanctioned bill, and we have to be very clear about that. It is a sanctioned bill. It is not a bill that will bring about peace or security. Now, I would challenge anyone to find a single instance where sanctions have brought peace and stability to a country. In reality, what sanctions bring about is poverty, hunger, pain, and suffering. And that's exactly what this bill is going to do, destroy the livelihood of ordinary Ethiopians and drive the country into even a deeper and worse humanitarian crisis. So it will not help.
H.R. 6600 contains extremely damaging provisions to the bilateral security interests, investments in Ethiopia, especially for post-war reconstructions, diaspora civil liberties, and Ethiopia's ability to work with international financial institutions, including USAID. These draconian measures are specifically to lend collateral benefit to TPLF at a great expense to the ordinary Ethiopian people in order to coerce the Ethiopian government into compulsory negotiation. The bill addresses in the areas of security, suspension of security assistance, which weakens Ethiopia and further establishes instability in the Horn of Africa. In finance, revoking economical developmental opportunity through loans, financial gains, and technical assistance. Bill H.R. 66 further insists on organizing other allies and nations for this financial blockade, which will limit and restrict aid in Ethiopia. Moreover, the bill prohibits Ethiopia from the United States International Development Finance Corporation, hereby preventing the United States investment in currency exchange in Ethiopia. It also tends to deny basic Ethiopian American mobility to invest and penalize the Ethiopian diaspora and allies of Ethiopia for supporting the people of Ethiopia, whether it's supporting financial or subject matter experts keen to share knowledge and expertise. Regarding immigration, the bill enforces immigration restriction on Ethiopians, which includes rescinding existing visa applicants and future diverted visa application in addition to sanction and withholding assets of any foreign person or entity accused of supporting the conflict.
I would argue that sanctions are the most insidious and pervasive form of modern warfare, and they're portrayed as gentler options than war, but the truth is that sanctions kill. They actually kill more than actual wars, and they affect the most vulnerable part of the population. That's who they devastate the most. And as we've seen throughout the past 5 decades, U.S. sanctions have caused more death than bombs and guns. So this bill is extremely dangerous. If it passed, it will hurt Ethiopia, it will hurt Eritrea, the Ethiopian people, the Ethiopian government, Ethiopians at home, the diaspora, Ethiopian businesses, and any country or international entity, organization that helps Ethiopia. It's so broad that anyone that has anything to do with Ethiopia can somehow be linked as aiding and abetting war or fueling war and be affected by the sanctions. So it's an extremely dangerous bill that really I can't believe has been written for Ethiopia. And that is why it's absolutely critical that not just Ethiopians and Eritreans, not just Africans, but American citizens need to be concerned that Congress is cooking up a bill like this against an ally like Ethiopia, and collectively we must resist this bill and make sure that it's pulled.
Actors in the field argue that H.R. 6600, Ethiopia Stabilization, Peace and Democracy Act will not resolve any domestic issues in Ethiopia nor bring common ground to live by for the public at large.
If the H.R. 6600 draft bill is passed by the United States government, it will seriously affect the livelihood and economic activities of the Ethiopian people. In an exclusive interview with ETV English, Dina Mufti, spokesperson of the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, urged Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia to stand together against the ratification of the punitive bill. Shagai Mata reports.
The H.R. 6600 draft bill is proposed by some members of the United States House of People's Representatives Congress last month. It entails various forms of sanctions, including suspension of security and financial assistance to the Ethiopian government. In an exclusive interview with ETV Foreign Affairs spokesperson Dina Mufti underscored that Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia should stand together against the ratification of H.R. 6600 bill that affects the livelihood and economic activities of the Ethiopian people if passed.
This bill, if it is endorsed, if it is ratified, will hurt Ethiopia in so many ways. So therefore, Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia, including the Americans, who seek friendship, friendly ties with Ethiopians, should stand against this bill, because the bill doesn't measure up to the level of the historic relationship between the two countries. Therefore, the bill has to be killed. Ethiopian friends, friends of Ethiopia, the diaspora elements, and everybody else should exert its effort so as to stop this bill from being ratified. Writing petitions, sending protests to members of the Congress, making them aware of the grave consequences of ratifying this bill for the Ethio-American relationship. These are some of the measures that one has to carry out so as to overcome these hurdles.
Dina also said that the draft bill does not consider the constructive measures taken by the Ethiopian government, such as the lifting of state of emergency, the release of some of the political prisoners, and the launching of the national dialogue process. Dina further outlined that the draft bill is introduced by some sympathizers of the TPLF or individuals with lack of understanding of the reality on the ground in Ethiopia.
The very narrative, the very intention of proposing this bill doesn't measure up to the actual situations on the ground. It doesn't help the peace process. It doesn't help Ethiopians. It doesn't help Ethio-American relationship as well. So it's not to the benefit of neither Americans nor Ethiopians. Why they do it? These are groups lobbied. These are groups who either misunderstood what is happening on the ground or have been lobbied and carry their vested interest. This is a vested interest of hurting Ethiopia at the expense of implementing this bill at the expense of Ethiopia. It is a vested interest of supporting one group, the wrong group, the group that doesn't care about peace and the stability of the region.
Ethiopia believes that this bill does not measure up to the level of historic relationship between Ethiopia and the United States, he further told ETV.
The Minister of Water Energy says Ethiopia has not exploited its water resources as compared to its large population size. In connection to this, President Sahle Zewde lauded that Ethiopia is always ready for genuine cooperation with downstream countries to properly tap all natural resources. Here again is Shagai Mato.
Participating at the 9th World Water Forum, Dakar, Senegal, Ethiopia explains its water utilization to participants from around the world. Minister of Water and Energy Haftam Itafa said Ethiopia used the forum to highlight the inadequacy of water resources in terms of population density and growth.
People believe that Ethiopia is the water tower of Africa. This is wrong perception. It is true, Ethiopia has water, but our community in Somali, Eastern Oromia, Afar and Gambela are dealing with droughts. As some parts of Ethiopia gains rain in a specific period of time, the rhetoric, Ethiopia is water, should be considered carefully. Ethiopia took the occasion to let know the world is water resource shortage. The world needs to understand and support Ethiopia fairly regarding its water resources.
Addressing gatherings, President Sahle Zewde lauded Ethiopia has always been ready for genuine cooperation with downstream countries. Ethiopia is undertaking Green Legacy initiative to mitigate climate change, she added.
Ethiopia has always been ready for genuine cooperation and effective and efficient data and information sharing mechanism, which we believe will address all the legitimate concerns on this matter. Our Green Legacy initiative is the other effort we are undertaking to address climate change. Through this initiative, we are undertaking a massive afforestation program through planting billions of trees in Ethiopia and sending seedlings in neighboring countries as well.
Haftamu suggested that Ethiopia should be supported by the international organizations based on its development needs and its contribution to climate change.
Ethiopia has a great interest for development, so the country should be supported. Our Green Legacy initiative is not only to Ethiopia, but it has also immense contribution to the world as well. Of course, development partners are supporting Ethiopia, but it should be replicated.
African Affairs Director at Ministry of Foreign Affairs Fassah Shaul noted the event helped Ethiopia to share experience in heightening its diplomatic ties with various countries.
The role of Ethiopia's Green Legacy in maximizing volume of water and sending seedlings to neighboring countries are some of the factors magnified and well accepted in the grand event. Ethiopia will also voice the same stance in adequate preparation about its water resources in the anticipated COP27 forum, which is slated to held in Egypt.
ስለዚህ እነዚህ መድረኮች በአግባቡ መጠቀም አለብን እየተጠቀምን ነው
The World Water Forum is the first of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa where drought-affected countries across the globe have got great emphasis, it was learned.
Gondar, a city of palaces and castles.
Now in the palace of Emperor Fasilides. Let's go inside and see what it's like. It has a unique Nubian structure and it was registered on the UNESCO Heritage Sites in 1979. Gondar, Gondar. This statue was made to commemorate the beloved Emperor Theodros on January 18th of 2012.
We're here to see some castles. World Heritage Site.
Welcome back. You're watching this news hour. The Ethiopian higher government officials started to hold public conference at different administrative levels under the theme, "The augmentation of difficulties will not stop us from our journey to prosperity." The public conference is part of the Prosperity Party ongoing agenda, which enables the party to address challenges the country is facing and help reach on the national consensus. Therefore, public discussions are being held in various parts of the country in accordance to decisions passed by the PP Central Committee at the first ever General Assembly of the party. This public discussion, where senior government officials are taking part, is highly anticipated to help succeed the national agenda of the country. At this public meeting held in different parts of the country, issues like peace and security, inflation, development and reconstruction of war-affected, among others, are discussed. Next is our forex update. Let's take a look. Group Executive Officer of CEO of the Ethiopian Airlines, Tewolde ገብረማርያም, has been under medical treatment in the United States for the last 6 months. As he needs to focus on his personal health issues, he is unable to continue leading the airline as a group CEO, a duty which demands closer presence and full attention around the clock, according to a statement issued by the Ethiopian Airlines. Accordingly, Tewolde ገብረማርያም requested the board of management of the Ethiopian Airlines Group for early retirement in order for him to focus on his full attention to his medical treatment. The board, in its ordinary meeting held yesterday, has accepted Tewolde's request for early retirement. Tewolde led the airline for over a decade with remarkable successes. Under his leadership, the airline group has grown by fourfold in all measurements, building more than 700 million USD worth of vital infrastructure like Africa's biggest hotel, cargo terminal, MRO hangar and shops, aviation academy, and full flight simulations. The board, the senior management, employees, and the whole Ethiopian Airlines family expressed their gratefulness for his contribution and wish him full recovery soon, the statement read.